Bismillah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good greetings. Today I will be going about some feedbacks from the students from last semester. Just to put things in context, next week a new batch of students will come in this university. So next semester I will be teaching a new batch of students in the subject, because I teach the first semester subject in the engineering course here in the university. So this feedback is from the last semester. I gathered this feedback actually in the middle of the semester, after actually we shifted towards ERTL mode of teaching, right, where COVID strike and the teaching shifted online most of the time, for the most part. And then I just want to have some feedback about how I approach my teaching and learning process, right? So this is some feedbacks. It is more of thinking out loud kind of video here, because I will go about it and thinking how I should be improving. But if anyone is actually interested in this kind of video, academic related video, and to also learn from the students' feedback onto what you also can improve if you are a lecturer or teacher, or you want to just understand what is the students' perspective and also want to contribute for me to take into account to improve and continuously improve my teaching and learning process, right? That is important, I think, for the students, inshallah. Right, so I have asked some questions, so this will be some of the some of the response. So let's go. Right, so one question that I asked: are you facing challenges to perform in the quizzes? Because I normally do a lot of quizzes as part of my teaching and learning process. Can you state the reason as to why? Now, this question is being asked because I see a drop of performance in the quizzes compared to the previous semester. Right, so I was wondering what is the challenges from the students' perspective. So now is some of the answers. Sorry. Don't get enough time to study. I'm sorry, sir. I'll try my best to schedule my time wisely. Right, so this is, I think, one of the issue when they have to go back home because of the restriction of movement, etc. And because it's I do realize this thing, right? It's not just about learning online. It is actually about staying at home with your family and try to learn online. That's two different challenges, right? Because if you are still within the environment in the university and you're learning online, that's just one challenge, which is online, you know. But when you are living with your family, to manage your time is a totally different challenge, I think, for most of the students at least, right? So I think this is one of the issue that hopefully the coming semester they will have a better environment, because the students have to come to the university. As of now, I think most of the process should be online, at least in my university. That's the instruction so far. Except for the midterm and final, that should be physical. So they should have less issue here, unless I do not know what they do if they do not allocate the time to study, right? Because yeah, they are not back at home where the parent might expect them to do a lot of chores in the house, right? So hopefully the coming semester, they will have less challenges here. Confusing question and limited time, right? So this doesn't surprise me, because I do set the quiz to be very challenging time-wise, because my approach towards quizzes for my section is that it is assessment for learning, and not just assessment of learning. I do not just want to know how much they have learned, but I want to push them to realize that whether they are prepared enough or not yet, right? So the time that I give is actually just enough for anyone who very prepared for the quiz to perform, right? So if you are less prepared or not prepared, you will not have enough time for sure, right? So that's my approach. Hence, if some student give this kind of feedback, it doesn't surprise me, but I hope the student realize that, oh, I need to improve in terms of my preparation. Hopefully that, confusing question, yeah. I think if anyone who only student that just depend on what I've seen in the tutorial, etc., and they expect the question to be exactly like that, and they do not explore other type of question that can be asked, it can be confusing. I don't that's the way I designed the question. So yeah, because we didn't study before the quizzes, so suddenly the student just give the reason already. We didn't study, so that's why my performance, is down the drain. So yeah, yes, because it's too hard sometimes to understand what the question want, and it's different to take quizzes at home. Okay, there's 2 points here. One is to understand what the question want. I always stress this to the student that the first step to actually perform in the exam is first is to understand what the question want, what the question give, right? And that is a skill in itself. And I think some of the student that is taking engineering course, starting with this course, for example, some of them are really not exposed to certain type of, because I teach statics, which is a mechanical subject. So apparently some student even not exposed to certain basic mechanical mechanism, right? So in the subject, it just teach how to analyze and then solve, right? It doesn't teach this mechanism function like this, etc., right? It assume you have seen these things, right? Meaning that there's a lot of mechanical objects around us and mechanisms that we expect to know, okay, this is how it function, ball joint, etc., and we are learning how to analyze it. But many students, I do notice that they don't even have any previous exposure to how to even imagine that mechanism, right? So if you're stuck there, how can you even analyze? Because we have to draw the free body diagram, for example, based on how we understand the mechanism. If you cannot even imagine the mechanism, that is a tough challenge. And yeah, so even to understand the question, what the question wants, it is because I always assume before that student that reach to the level of university should have some basic understanding of certain things. Unfortunately, my assumption is not the case, right? So yeah, I'm not sure. I still ponder how best to help this kind of students, really, if you have any suggestion, right? Because if we take the time in the class, because this is just for some of the students, many of the students can understand how to imagine the mechanism, right? For example, and we do not have enough time to teach that or illustrate that in the class, right? We have a lot of material to cover, so it should be before the class. But I'm still pondering what is the best mechanism of teaching for that. Yes, I think I'm lack of exercises. Okay, pardon the grammar, I think. Hence, I tend to be freak out when it comes to quizzes. Okay, so yeah, for sure, if you are not prepared, suddenly you come across that question that challenge you, that tend to be the case, right? So my approach is always make them freak out as much as possible in the quiz, so that they freak out there, they go back, do more preparation, so that in the midterm and final, they can ace it, right? So that's always my approach. So my quizzes tend to be at a level that at least it mirror the midterm and final, at least, right? Or if not more. So that is always my approach, so that they freak out in the quiz, so that they will not freak out in the midterm and final, right? So yeah, I always miss the time for the quizzes because it's hard to wake up very early in the morning at home. Okay, so my class in the previous semester is at 8 a.m. at 8 in the morning, right? So I do the quiz at the beginning of the session, so it's around 5 minutes roughly like that. I give 5-minute gaps for just to be nice. But it's hard to wake up very early in the morning at home. What do you mean 8 a.m. very early? Okay, when you classify 8 a.m. as very early, that already give an idea of what kind of benchmark you have, right? So I cannot help you there. 8 a.m. is not very early. It's early maybe, but it's not very early. I do not make it at 7 a.m. right? Yeah, and my question is, are you playing games or something that you sleep very late, that 8 a.m. is becoming very early? Time are very short sometimes. The internet, okay, time are very short. Sometimes the internet connection are not so good that it takes time to submit. Okay, this is technical issues about submission, right? So some students complain that for them to submit it takes more time, and because I do have a deadline of time, I do give them like I think 10 minutes, is it 5 minutes? I don't remember. 5 minutes of buffer time, so that the official time ended here, and then only after 5 minutes I consider anything reached to be late, right? So some students says they take more than 5 minutes to upload because of internet connection. So we did after I think after a certain point I do improve in that, in terms of some of selected students that have terrible internet connection, they can submit not via Google form etc, but from WhatsApp, right? Because the file is smaller and it's easier. Hopefully that helps it. Yes, the quiz question is a bit different compared to the tutorial, so I got some difficulties in answering. Yeah, you should expect that, right? You should expect that the question is not exactly like the tutorial is within the reality of university. I think we are not okay, that's the issue with some of the students, where the experience is mainly getting familiar with the type of question and then excel in the exam because of familiarity, right? I think in Malaysia we have even the SPM level. They do like, what is Latih to be in English? They do drill of question, and then you become very familiar with different type of questions, that any of this question comes in, you know what to do, right? It's more on familiarity. But in the university level, I don't think that should be the case. I think you should be able to understand fundamentally how to approach a question, right? So I can change anything about the question. Fundamentally it's still the same. You just understand the mechanism, you just draw the free body diagram, and you approach and solve. So it's not different in that sense. Fundamentally it's the same. But if you are hoping that technically is also the same, meaning that it's the same exact type of support, etc., that will not happen, at least for this course in the university level, right? Because otherwise we have to cover tutorial for all the type of mechanism existing in the world. That's not possible. And you would not even want that kind of tutorial that cover 5 hours of question, right? So we focus on how we approach question fundamentally. You understand that you can apply for any type of question. So that's how I understand it. Yeah. Sometimes I also spend some of my time in figuring the question which makes me late to submit. So this is about to understand the question itself, right? So yeah, I do suggest the student that they should go through all question in the book mentally, right? You do not need to spend time to answer everything, because that will be lengthy if you attempt all the question, right? But just looking at the question, reading the question, test whether you understand it, and mentally imagine step by step what will you do, right? That doesn't take much time, because you do not actually put in the values and calculate every steps, but you just test yourself whether you can imagine the step-by-step process of doing so, right? And the first step of that is to start with imagining, okay, this question one, this one, it gives this one. So based on this, using this concept, I can move one step, right? If you can imagine that, you should be able to solve any type of question, right? Because most type of question that can be asked is already in the book, but you have never attempt on any of that. So do not be surprised if when it come in the exam you find it difficult. Yeah, the speed of my internet, 5 minutes is not enough to upload my answer. Okay, this I mentioned just now. In the last quiz, I will take 10 minutes to upload. Okay, at first when I get this kind of response, I cannot believe. Is it 10 minutes to upload just when you snapshot of your question answer and you want to question answer, yeah, the answer paper, you want to upload it? Is it 10 minutes? 10 minutes is long. But when I discuss with some of my friends, apparently, because my logic is this: most of the students can browse internet, can watch YouTube videos, no problem. That is larger file, right? To stream videos compared to just one picture, right? But apparently, most most of the package that they subscribe to, the mobile data plan, has very different rate of downloading and uploading, right? So they can watch videos, they can watch whatever, because it's downloading, it's quite okay, sufficient, but to upload it, it's like 10 times slower or 20 times slower, right? So hence just 10 minutes or more, right? So after that only I know that okay, so yeah, that is the reality, so I have to reconsider then. So only then I know that the different rate of downloading and uploading can be such significant rate. I don't know what topic that come out for the quizzes. Okay, this one I cannot help you because you are the only one that comment like this, because anyone who follow my classes and my tutorial and my announcement, they should always know what will be covered in the quizzes, right? So if you don't even know, do you even follow the announcement? Okay, it's harder to wake up early. Okay, another issue about waking up at home compared to at campus because of having other responsibilities as well. Okay, what does this mean? What responsibility at home that causes you to wake up late and harder to wake up early? Isn't responsibility at home tend to be forcing you to wake up earlier? I'm not sure. I'm asking because maybe their parents ask them to stay up at night to cook for the restaurant or something. I don't know what kind of responsibility that force you to stay up late at night that it's harder to wake up early. Because I thought most of, if your family really expect you to do a lot of things at home, you have to wake up early to, you know, do things, right? I thought so. I'm not sure. Maybe there are some responsibilities that outside of my radar. Please do tell me if you know of this or you actually face this, that your responsibility at home is to, I do not know, you know, to stay up. Why do people stay up for responsibility other than playing games, etc.? Yes, the environment in the home is really not helping with studying. It's quite hard to focus. Okay, to be honest, there are some students that really face this problem where not everyone have their own room. I come from quite a privileged background where our home is we have sufficient space. If I want to focus on study, there's a place for it that I'm not directly disturbed by other siblings, for example, right? But only later in life I do know that that is not the reality for many others. Sometimes they don't even have their own room, and when they want to study, others are playing, etc. So it's really not conducive at home to study. So it is really hard to be fair to these guys, because when you are teaching a subject, engineering subject for example, right, and within that semester you have the objective to achieve. You have to understand this, you have to master this, you have to be able to analyze this, etc. And as much as we want to be fair to the student in terms of not forcing you too much, the objectives still have to be met. At least so far, that's my understanding of what we are doing in the university, right? We cannot lower the grade that, okay, you can still pass even if you do not understand how to solve problem, because your environment is tough, right? Not to be mean, but I'm saying in terms of the course that student take, there's objective in terms of ability to do something, right? So to be able to do something, you have to actually put some work to reach that level, right? Yes, I do acknowledge it will be very hard for some compared to others, but what is the alternative? If we lower the bar, that even if you don't understand how to solve the problem, you can still pass, that doesn't serve the bigger objective, because when you go to other subject, the next subject, the continuation, you will be, you know, out of your ability to even understand the next subject, right? So it is not helping if I reduce the benchmark of understanding that you have to reach, right? So it's really a real problem for some, and I do not know the solution, honestly speaking. Hopefully, as I mentioned earlier in the video, next semester all the students will be here, so hopefully this issue will not be still an issue. Can't understand well as I don't get enough time to watch the video. I try to manage my time, but I still don't get the best schedule to study. I'm sorry, sir. I'll try my best to manage my time wisely, sir. Okay, because I do flipped classroom. Normally in the normal semester, so they have to watch my lecture video on their own time and then come to the class for tutorial. That's the normal semester, right? So they have it's on to them when they want to watch the video. Most students from the analytics that I see, they try to watch it the very night before the tutorial. That's not the best case scenario, I think, because if you suddenly have something there, it will totally mess up your schedule, right? So it's best to do it a bit earlier so that you have a gap in case you need that, right? But what happened when COVID and then everyone go back home and everything become online? So both the lecture and the tutorial become online. The way I did it is that I do expect still, because the schedule is still there, but you know, they have to stick to it on their own, because they are not coming to class. They just wake up at 8 a.m. and then do the class, right? So I do expect that they watch the tutorial there and then the class before that, right? So for those who do not have good management of themselves to stick to the time, then yeah, it will be challenging if you delay something and then it mess up the whole schedule, right? So yeah, unfortunately, hopefully next semester this kind of excuses become less relevant, because if you still have these excuses, then what do you do actually with your time? Okay, yes, most of the question I never attempt to do. Like example, I know how to calculate moment of axis, but I don't know what is the function of coordinate, direction, angle, the quiz, and I can't see where is the position of alpha, beta, gamma. The mistake ruin my time to do faster. Alright, so yeah, this is lack of exercises, I would say. And I do always mention to the student, from the very beginning, I think most of them will just think this is like a scare tactic or something, because I always say from the very first chapter, second chapter, chapter 2, chapter 3 is so crucial, because even if you understand chapter 5, chapter 6, if you don't understand chapter 2 and 3, it will mess up everything, because every calculation, most calculations started with that, right? If you cannot identify coordinate, you don't even know how to pinpoint this is coordinate 1, 2, 3 or whatever, then even if you understand the concept of moment or etc., you will not get the correct answer, because when it start with okay, identify the coordinate, get the position vector, etc., it will wrong from the get-go, right? So like if I understand this comment, right? So it's very hard for me to really convince the student that when I say from the very beginning, make sure you understand this. If you have any question, please ask now. Everyone will stay silent like they don't have any question, right? Even if I go one by one, any question, no, right? But we know they do not understand when we do the quiz. So how to force the student to ask when they do not understand until they understand, that's still a challenge for me. It's still a challenge, right? How to accelerate that process. If you have any suggestion, please do suggest, right? Because I think here in our country, the student is not mentally prepared to want to learn or to want to resolve whatever they don't understand there and then. They always think, okay, I'll think about this later, I'll try to understand later, and later never comes. It will be too late, especially in subject like this, right? If you delay, it affects everything, unfortunately. Yes, probably because the interval between each quizzes for each subtopic are too short, since I need to focus on the next subtopic. Therefore, I need more time to prepare, recall the previous learning as well. Okay, this is the issue of, I actually wonder how did I learn it back then when I was a student, right? Because it is very interesting actually. When I look at the material, what I learned when I was doing my undergrad in this subject is more, meaning the item that we learn is more than what we have, I'm teaching right now, because we are filtered out so that making less items. However, even with this less item in 14 weeks of lecture, it's still very much packed, and the student really have to understand in this lecture, understand this concept, next lecture already next concept, and so on and so forth. So my approach is I do quiz every single, almost every single lecture, because it's already a different topic, so that I want to force them to keep track with each topic. Of course, for the student, it will feel like this, right? There's too little time to prepare. Why? Because they compare it as, if I do not do that, they can delay and try to understand everything in the midterm, for example, or in the exam, right? So there's more time to prepare. But if the best case scenario is they actually understand it as we go on, right? So when I do quiz like that, it is not, I do not shorten the time. I just force them to try to understand within the normal time that they should anyway, right? So, but that kind of shifting mindset is very hard to do, I think, because we are so accustomed to actually delay everything to the end and then try to understand everything in the end. Okay, what would your suggestion be to improve your performance in the quizzes? Why is that blank there? More time and much easier question. That's an interesting suggestion. Give more time, make the question easier. Of course you can perform, but my objective of doing quiz, as I mentioned, is to force you to learn. If I do this, many students will actually fooling themselves to think that they are prepared for the final and the midterm, which they are not. If the question is simple, I give more time than necessary, they think, oh, I can, I want to avoid that. To study before the quiz, okay, that goes without saying, you have to study before the quiz. In my opinion, sir, no offense, I respect you from the beginning of your class. Your flipped lecture kind long videos, which is right now, we have a lot of videos to cover. Okay, this is an issue with because what I did when I say I did flipped classroom is I make a lecture video, post online, they have to watch it before the class, and in the class we go to the tutorial how to apply what you understand from the lecture, right? And because the way I did the lecture is almost like real class, right? So the length is basically a class time length, 1 hour, 1 hour plus, right? When I start to do flipped classroom previous semester, most students give very good feedback, because it improved them in terms of them more prepared, etc., etc. But when last semester, I think it become very challenging because every class becomes online. So instead of only my lecture is doing flipped classroom where they have to watch one video for this subject, they have to watch all videos from all the subjects. Hence it become very overwhelming. So I'm still not sure how to rectify that. Yeah, I'm assuming this also tied to the fact that they are at home. Hopefully this semester, coming semester, when they are at the college, they should have the time, if they are not too busy doing something else. Maybe I need to focus more to the tutorial and flip video provided by you. No comments. Of course you need to focus on that video. Now I do tell the student that it's not really compulsory to watch the video. I just prepare the video to help you understand the subject. If you do not want, if you do not need to, you already understand, you do not to watch the video, you already prepared for the exam, so be it. I don't mind. I'm not forcing people just to watch my video, right? I've just prepared those videos in case you need them to understand. Normally they didn't need them, right? So yeah, that's the interesting part, right? Because they complain there's too much, because when I do that, when I do as much as possible, I give as much material as possible for anyone who need, they feel overwhelmed because there's too much material. So I do not know what to do, because it is just to help, not compulsory to cover all the material, because I do extra tutorial. Actually the video become long because I cover so many questions. I said you can pick and choose which question you want to see, right? So I give more options, but it will appear to be more, right? There's hours of tutorial. There's too much. Why should I watch too much? You don't need to if you don't want, but in real circumstances as well, you will spend that much hours trying to figure out solving question on your own anyways, if you want to score, right? So it's just giving you the opportunity to see the explanation in tutorial form. So that's my intention. However, it doesn't translate well, I guess, because they cannot bridge that gap of understanding the concept. I do not know. Any suggestion, please do so. Try to understand the concept and attempt some question. Of course you should. I suggest make a multiple choice quiz, right? Multiple choice question. Okay, the essence of this subject is for you to be able to analyze and plan and then execute the steps needed to solve the problem. If multiple choice, it doesn't test you that. You just, okay, this is which one is correct. It tests different thing, right? So I don't think it will ever go to multiple choice question for this subject, at least yeah, from my perspective. Need a live discussion on how to attempt related question and need more time to answer. All right, so last week, okay, to put in perspective, in the end, everything becomes online and not synchronous, because to consider that some students do not have good enough internet connection. So if you do synchronous, Zoom, etc., it'll be too much for those students, right? So I make everything online on YouTube, so the download rate is easier, and I'll just stand by there. There's some student that whenever they go through the tutorial, they don't understand, they just question to me, right? So I'm there for live discussion. But I think some students, they have difficulty with that because they do not, I don't know, have the courage to answer question or something, but they prefer, I don't know, because if I'm there and I just open, okay, I'm open for question, no one will come, but they will still complain that I do not have enough discussion, right? So they actually want me to actually, I do not know. Increase the duration of the quizzes, maybe submit an hour late or the next day. Okay, that will not achieve my objective, to say it simply, because I want to push you to the level that you really are prepared. That's my objective. So I do everything based on objective. I suggest we have quizzes at the end of class time or in the middle of it. This can be considered, but I think it will affect the class itself, because I want them, for example, this class, and then they get prepared, and then at the beginning of next class they have quiz, so that chapter is over, and then we cover a new chapter. If we cover chapter 1 and then next time we cover chapter 2, and then at the end we go to the quiz for chapter 1, during that tutorial for chapter 2 they will only focus on what will be quiz, which is chapter 1, and that will be a waste of time because they are not focusing, right? So I want to avoid that, unless we do like we cover chapter 1 and then at the end straight away we do quiz chapter 1. That I have no problem with that, but that will be more difficult, because I think from my perspective it's not fair for the student, because some students do need time to digest. So they, after they go back to the class, from the class they look back at the notes and then digest, and then only it's fair to test them. But if the student want, no, just test us at the end of the class, meaning they have to understand there and then still do the quiz, I have no problem with that. But I think most students, if I actually do it, if I actually implement it in such a way, the student will riot a little bit more, I think. Firstly, I need to improve myself on the quiz. Secondly, sir should hold a class to talk about the quiz so the student could learn from their mistakes. Okay, this one, yeah, I have to admit that I don't have the time to even discuss the mistakes of past quizzes, unfortunately. But if I do that, because where to find the time, right? Because even without that, the time is already allocated. I can do extra additional session, but then it will affect the students that previously mentioned that there's already too much time they have to watch, etc., right? So how to balance? That's an interesting challenge. I need to fix my basic chapter 2 and 3, as I mentioned before. Chapter 2 and 3 crucial. I'll study more smart this time and make a note for a small and big mistake. Okay, I need more time to answer the quiz. Not sure, because the quiz is okay. The problem comes from myself, who lack of extra practice. Yeah. Anything else that you want to state as a feedback to the lecturer? I think this is the final question I put at the end. Any other additional feedback? Okay, this is in Malay. Jangan tolak markah kalau kuis hantar lewat. Internet problem, sir. And pagi-pagi kucing saya selalu kacau. 5 minit habis macam tu je. Alright, so if you do not understand this, because this is not in English, do not deduct marks if we submit late. Okay, my style is, I set the deadline of the quiz. Anything late, I will just deduct the marks, right? So it's significant deduction. So this question says do not deduct, because one, my internet is problematic. Second, in the morning my kitty cat always bother me. 5 minutes just went like that, right? So blame it to the cat. It's the cat's fault. Okay, I'm just joking here, but interesting. That's the issue at home, right? Because not only I don't know, even the cat is a disturbance, right? So what to do? Hopefully next semester there's no one facing this problem, because they will be at the college and they cannot bring the cat. I'm deeply sorry, sir, if my feedback might be offensive or too inappropriate. Okay, what is it? I love and very well understand your lecture. Okay, but the video is a bit long. For some video it's about 1 hour long. Okay, this is go back to my approach of lecture video before that I mentioned. Perhaps I need to, because okay, my justification, or not to justify, my approach before, right? If you look at my lecture video, I approach it just like if I'm lecturing. Right? I do give example, I do give appreciation what is important, I give the concept, etc., etc., etc. Maybe some students do not need to go through that, just a condensed, this is a concept, this is how you do it, boom, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, we can do that, right? Without any explanation, without any elaboration, etc. I think it can be a shorter video. Perhaps I should do that, I do not know, because previously I think that will not be helpful. If the video is just like that, the majority of the student will be lost, right? What? Because they need to appreciate how this concept, etc., etc., right? So that's my personal perspective. Hence the video become long. If you have any suggestion, please do so. Do suggest for me to improve, because I do hope that I can continuously improve and give the best to the students. Okay, that's it. That's the end of the comments. So if you have, you know, listened until this point, congratulations. You are one of, I do not know, maybe from 15 people that click on this video, only one reached this point. Congratulations. If you have any suggestion for me to improve, please do so. Do suggest. I hope to improve on my teaching approach, inshallah. With that, thank you for watching. See you next time.